Please take your seats. We, the students, staff and community of PLC Armidale, acknowledge that we commence our year of learning and working together on land that for many thousands of years has been cared for by the Anawan people, the traditional custodians. We give our respect to Anawan elders past and present, and we also give respect and acknowledge all other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people present. I would now like to invite our chaplain and head of boarding, Miss Jennifer Lay, to lead our commencement service. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. It is good to be back together. Again, not in the way that we thought, but it's nice that some of us can be here in the chapel. I hope you've had a great holiday and a chance to rest and spend some time with friends and family. If I had to sum up my holidays, it would look like this: a coffee, a pile of books, and my veggie garden. And that is a pumpkin that is currently growing in my backyard. I'm still pretty impressed with myself. Well, as some of you know, at the beginning of term 4 last year, I became an auntie to this beautiful little girl called Baby Madison. That is her on Christmas Day, and that is also her on the weekend just gone. She is gorgeous, and I really love spending time with her. But I want to, in the years to come, to be able to share my love of reading with her. I very carefully remember and very clearly remember when I was younger, sitting down with my mum and my aunties and reading books and just getting lost in those stories and loving every minute of it. So, since she was born, I've started to put together a collection. So normally one every month, sometimes if I find exciting books it's more than that, of just making a little collections of books that one day we'll be able to share together. And hopefully my plan is to give them to her on her first birthday and then look forward to going on. This is part of the collection so far. You can just see some classics and some favourites of mine. I think it's just a really nice way to connect with her. And it's, again, just cute, because she is a beautiful little girl. But over the holidays, I added a book to this collection. And now it's this book. It's called The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse. Now, I'm very aware this is not for a girl who's only 4 months old at the moment. But I'm looking forward to leaving that with her because of the words that are inside. I don't know how many of you have seen this book, but it is actually one of the best-selling books in the UK. It has sold 5.5 million copies around the world, and in the UK, it's actually the best-selling hardback book ever since records began. How many of you have actually seen it? Just give me a little kind of hand wave. Yeah, nice. Look forward to seeing this book a lot more in the weeks to come. Now, it came out just before the pandemic actually started. And the words in this book were so timely, and all the reviews just keep talking about how precious these words are and how timely they are for a time that we are currently living in. And it's been able to bring comfort and joy and a sense of belonging to readers of all different kinds of ages. It's a really simple story, written by Charlie, you can see on the screen there. It's a very simple story about, as it says, a very curious boy, a wise horse, a fox that's actually withdrawn and been pretty hurt, and then a cake-loving mole. Who doesn't love cake? They simply go for a walk. And throughout the book, they just go through this walk and they ask each other questions. The boy normally is the one that asks, and the horse is actually the one that gives the wise advice. But right through, they ask big life questions. Well, what's it all about? What's going on? Why do I feel like this? How do I keep going? What is actually important in life? What does success look like? These were all questions that our author actually had himself when, after he'd finished school, he actually went through something quite tragic. And his conclusion after that event was that this is how he saw life, that life was actually a bit of a catastrophe, that it was all just a bit bad, and that humans just kind of kept making a mess of things over and over again. But it was during this time that he actually started drawing and used some of that time to be able to get at what he was feeling. But he was invited along by a friend to a local church where they were doing kind of an introduction to the Christian faith. What does it look like? And his words were, he saw a beautiful truth at the core of Christianity. For him, it actually came when he heard the story about the prodigal son. I'm sure, again, if you've been in my Christian studies classes, you know this story well, but we're going to look at it together today. This story has actually formed the groundwork for actually most of his artworks. Have a look on the screen. This is one that he put together. There's lots of them. And it's this picture that, as we'll see as the story continues, of the prodigal son coming home. Again, if you're not familiar with this story, let me quickly run you through it. It is beautiful and it is timely. It's very simple, and the words are on the screen for you. It says, Jesus continued, "There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, 'Father, give me my share of the estate.' So he divided his property between them. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, and he set off for a distant country and there squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in that whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country, who sent him to the fields to feed pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything." Again, very simple story. There's a dad, he has 2 sons. The younger one says, "Dad, I want my inheritance now," while his dad is very much alive. Amazingly graciously, his dad says, "Okay," and he gives it to him. He then takes off and travels far, far away. To start with, life goes so well. He loves it. But it doesn't take long until all that money is gone. And suddenly then he's left with absolutely nothing. He then has to go off and find some work, and the only work he can find is feeding pigs. And he's so hungry that the pig's food looks good. Can you imagine being like that? But the story continues. In verse 17 it begins. "When he came to his senses, he said, 'How many of my father's hired servants have food to spare, and here I am, starving to death? I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants.' So he got up and went to his father." He's there with the pigs and he suddenly remembers his dad. He remembers the situation he has walked away from, and he decides he has to go back to dad and actually say sorry and ask if he can come back and just work. He says, "Don't take me back to the family, just let me come back and work." So he goes off. Does he expect his dad to welcome him back? Actually, no, I don't think he does. But he wants to go back and he wants to see what will happen. But the response that we see from his father is just beautiful. And in fact, I would say quite overwhelming. Here is his reaction on the screen. "But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him and kissed him. The son said to him, 'Father, I sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his servants, 'Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' So they began to celebrate." I think it's such a beautiful parable. And again, when you look at the picture and the sculpture that our artist has actually put together for us, he captures this moment beautifully. It almost looks like the son is just collapsing into his dad, so pleased that he is home and where he should be. This parable that Jesus brought to the crowds really is an amazing picture of God, represented in the story by the Father, and his love and compassion for all of humanity, represented in the story by the sons. A picture of being welcomed back, of finding a place that we can really call home. And I love how much this story from the 1st century hits home again today. It really is this snapshot of the gospel, and this is actually the faith that Charlie, our author, actually wants to continue to proclaim today. He says these things, that actually, yeah, you're right, human beings do get it wrong, but God is so gracious that he reaches down to us in spite of all our mistakes, and his grace means that we can actually give up that need to try and get it right and actually just trust in him, or in his words, to come as we are, ask for his help and his forgiveness. Now, this beautiful book about the boy and the story is actually just gorgeous, and you will see some of the images around the school and particularly around the boarding house in the next little while. One of the scenes in this book that really gets me is this picture. If you can't read it, it says, the boy is asking a question. He says, "What's the bravest thing you've ever said?" "Help," said the horse. There is this beautiful picture of what's going on there, because I think most of the time, if you're anything like me, actually asking for help is hard. We don't like admitting that we actually need someone else to help us. We can't admit that we can't fix it by ourselves, and we need to accept help from other people. It's not an idea you often see in our society, because we're often told we can do it by ourselves. But it's sometimes then even harder to accept that help when it is offered. For me, this beautiful picture actually reminds me so beautifully of what it means to truly know God. That the message of Jesus is about coming to him for help, as actually the only one who can offer what we truly do need, the one who can offer us forgiveness, a relationship and life to the full, both now and for eternity. And that through his death, resurrection and life, he has made it possible for us to actually get that help and to come and ask for it. It also, for me, also reminds us that we are people who are made for relationship. We need each other, and we need each other to help us. If the last 2 years have actually taught me anything at all, is that I need help from other people, that I can't do it by myself, and that asking for that help is not a sign of weakness. Instead, it's actually a sign of strength, because asking for help isn't giving up, it's refusing to give up. Have a look on the screen, because this is the picture I actually want to leave you with. As we begin 2022 we don't know what this year will hold for us. Girls, I hope that you will have these pictures in your mind. I will be having them in my mind, and you will see them up in the classroom. Because I hope you can see why this book is so beautiful and so popular. It's beautifully wise words, beautiful sketches, but again, these pictures actually remind us of something bigger. So as we begin this year, have these two pictures in mind. The sculpture on the left, as a reminder of the love, the forgiveness and help that we can find in our gracious Heavenly Father. But also the second one, to remind us that we are people who are made for relationship, to be open to seek help from others, but also help us to be people willing to help those around us. Please join me as I pray and commit our year ahead to the Lord. Heavenly Father, we do thank you for returning us safely for a new school year. Thank you for the break over the holidays to spend time with family and friends and be refreshed. We do pray this morning for our new staff and students. Please help them to feel settled quickly here at PLC and help us to be people who include and really get to know them people. Father, in your word, you remind us what you are truly like, that you are a gracious and compassionate God, the one that we can go to for help of all kinds. Help us in the good times, but also in the hard, to remember that we can come to you and seek help from you. Help us also to remember that you designed us for a relationship with you, but also for a relationship with one another. Help us to be people who are willing to seek to help others, but also gracious enough to accept help when we need it. Help us to be people who, again, have these pictures in our mind as the year continues, of a gracious, loving God who is there for the help that we so desperately need. And it's in your Son's name we pray these things. Amen. Girls, I look forward to seeing you as the day continues. Good morning, Mrs. Taylor.
Thank you, Miss Lay. And ordinarily, at this point of our commencement service, we would stand and sing together, but that is going to be one of the restrictions in the next couple of weeks that we will not be able to do corporately. So I would like to add my welcome to those families that are joining us via the live stream, to the families that have been able to be here with us this morning, to our Year 7 girls, to our Year 12 girls, and to the girls who will be investing as leaders in positions of responsibility a little bit later on. It is lovely to have new families joining us at the college, and I trust, girls, that you will very quickly feel part of our community, and likewise families that you will be able to connect in with us at different opportunities throughout the year, everyone. And girls, our existing students, you know what it is like to be the new girl. At some point, everyone's been new, so please make it a point of looking out for girls that are new. Even just a warm, smiling, friendly face can actually make someone who's feeling quite anxious inside feel very settled and feel that they belong. I'm looking forward to the contribution of some new staff to our college throughout the year, and I would like to welcome Mrs. Marion Beeson, who is joining us in the Visual Arts Department, to Mr. Andrew Patrick, who is joining us in the Humanities Department. We also have Sister Kate Kennedy, who will be joining us as our college nurse Monday to Wednesday, and Sister Amy Chu will continue to take that role on Thursdays and Fridays. Also welcome to Mr. Zach Clark. Zach is in the Astro Arts Centre with us, helping Mr. Estridge with the technology. Zach is here for this year undertaking an IT traineeship, and he's had a lot of responsibility given to him already as we've navigated having to begin the year in yet a different mode as well. We have a number of staff that have taken on new positions within the college, and I would like to congratulate them for their appointment to these positions of responsibility. To Miss Lay, joining our executive team as chaplain and head of boarding, to Mrs. Clinch, who steps up in the Director of Studies role, and our senior girls in particular will have a lot of interaction with Mrs. Clinch. Mrs. Clinch will be leading a lot of the operations and the compliance with the NESA regulatory framework as a support to Mr. Clendining, who continues to lead teaching and learning across the senior school. Mrs. Flanagan steps into a new role as our Head of Humanities, the role previously held by Mrs. Clinch. And Mrs. Weisel has taken up a role this year, working with Mr. Clendining and our pastoral care leadership team in the development of our pastoral care program. Our pastoral care teachers will work closely with Mrs. Weisel implementing that program, but we're excited for the initiatives that new role will bring. Mrs. Donaldson in the junior school and Mr. Gall in the senior school are both very excited and keen to be working closely with you girls in the area of our co-curricular sport. Both of them, as teachers of our PDHPE program, have taken on this position of responsibility as we restructured that department to be more responsive to the needs of our community and to be consistent with the way that we manage other co-curricular areas such as music, dance and drama, all taught by staff that are teaching in the academic program as well. And we are looking forward to hearing from both Mrs. Donaldson and Mr. Gall as they provide more information for us about the Swimming Carnival, which is coming up next week. There are also some familiar faces, but in new places. So this is particularly for our senior school girls, so junior school, please be patient. But Mrs. Clinch, as the Director of Studies, will occupy the office next door to Mr. Clendining's office, right opposite senior school reception. Our IT and tech support area has moved back to a place that it was purpose-built for some time ago, which is that quite large open area adjacent to the Year 11 study block and leading out to the library foyer as well. And so you will find both Mr. Clark and Mr. Estridge in there, girls, if you have any issues, especially our new girls, any issues with onboarding your technology to our network system. Our learning support room has been relocated as well, and that is now in the office area that Mrs. Clinch was in last year, opposite room 2, and the sport coordinators will jointly share the sport office near the sport notice board in the senior school area. And you will also find, girls, that whilst we will use the sport notice board, a lot more will be of signing up for things will be done via the Google Docs and Google Forms that you've become very adept at using. I'd like to share with you, as I do at the start of each year, just some reflections on our 2021 HSC results. We were thrilled with the outcome, not just of individuals, but of the collective of our Year 12 class of 2021. Some might say that they faced considerable challenge. They were a very small cohort for PLC Armidale. However, they turned that to their advantage as they worked together to support one another, especially in the preparation for the final run through to the exams, and we saw that in their HSC examination results. They were their entire Stage 6, both Year 11 and Year 12, were impacted by COVID restrictions, much stricter than we faced going into our 2022 school year. But they didn't use that as an opportunity for having a pity party or complaining about the challenge that they brought. Rather, they looked to see how could they use the restrictions of COVID to find creative ways of still being able to enjoy those signature Year 12 experiences. The advantage that we saw within the class of 2021 was really how well they worked together. What we do at PLC Armidale is about growing community and encouraging that collaboration and cooperation that we know benefits us as a group of people, but actually also has a very strong academic benefit as well. There were stars that certainly shone through in our Year 12 class of 2021, not just one or two individuals with impressive results, but impressive results achieved by a wide range of the girls. And we saw the benefit of that cohort effect, of them encouraging and working together in the final HSC results that came through. If you looked for us in the Sydney Morning Herald online table, unfortunately you would not have found us. Not because we would not have made the list, but there's a rule that you have to have, the Sydney Morning Herald has a rule, you have to have 150 physical examination papers sat in the examination centre at the school to even qualify for being included in that list. But if we look at the metric that they use to determine where you would be on that list, we would see that we, with our success score of 14.9%, it would have placed us, as far as we can tell, as being the highest performing school in the region overall, which is very impressive. We had our highest ATAR was Georgia Butler with 95.05. 17% of the cohort achieved an ATAR over 90. 10 students achieved one or more Band 6 result, which in the junior school is a mark over 90 or an A in their final results. And we attained Band 6 results across 11 subjects, which again is very impressive that in the areas of interest that the students chose, those high scores were rewarded to them. I would like to also congratulate Georgia Butler for having her visual arts work included in Art Express, which is an honour, as well as Pearl Rogers for a nomination for her drama project for On Stage, and Lucy Wright as an accelerant student in agriculture attained a Band 6 result and also has been selected as one of a very small group of students to share her research project as part of the UNE Growing Regional and Agricultural Students in Science Symposium coming up in the next week or so. So as we go into 2022, what is our approach going to be? Well, put simply, it is business as usual, but I will put those air inverted commas in because it will be business as usual with COVID safe planning. The Minister for Education in New South Wales announced yesterday that schools would not be closed even if there is an outbreak of COVID within a school community, and likewise contact tracing within a school community won't take place this year as it has done in the previous 2 years. But part of that COVID safe planning is a responsibility for myself, along with our school nurses and our executive team, to actually consider what are our risks as a school community for some of the activities that we do and how are we going to manage those risks. So, for example, yesterday, the welcome barbecue wasn't a barbecue, it was an afternoon tea. It wasn't open to everyone. We invited a smaller subset, just as we have today. So especially in phase 1, which is going to be our first 2 weeks of coming back to school, there will be a set of restrictions in place that are about minimising, as we're bringing people in from all different households, from all different parts of the state, even from overseas, that we're bringing people in and being able to reintegrate and be together in a safe and supportive way. There are some rules that we do need to follow, so that public health order I've mentioned before, that is legally binding on us and we must follow that. That requires within the public health order that if you are identified as a household contact as a student, you must isolate for 7 days. That there is an exemption for staff that work within schools, but for students, which is a bit different to term 4, but for students, you are required to isolate for 7 days, and that's in that public health order. A household contact is defined as someone that lives in the household that you usually reside in. And for some of our girls, they have the privilege of 2 households that they live in. And so your household contact would be the household that you were in at the time if someone in that household returned a positive test. Even within boarding, we have to look at our boarding house as a set of households within the boarding house. If there is a case of COVID-19 in our boarding house, it doesn't mean everyone in the boarding house is a household contact. It does mean the students in your year group will be defined as that household contact. And Miss Lay and the boarding house staff, along with Sister Chu, have spent considerable time planning how we can care for you if you do test positive, and how we can also care for other girls who will be deemed as those household contacts. And our Hilton boarding house has been set up as the Hilton COVID Hotel, and that will be where any of the girls that do need to self-isolate will spend some time there, and of course in close communication with your families as well. I know we don't like wearing the masks. I don't think really anyone enjoys wearing the masks, but we know that they provide a really good form of defence and protection, unless, of course, like me, I'm presenting and you're sitting away from where I am standing. But it's not going to help if you have the same mask on Monday that you wear on Friday without having changed it or washed it if it's a cloth mask. So if you were at a Department of Education school, they would ask you to wear a surgical mask, which are the blue and white masks that many of you are wearing, or the white cloth masks. And those masks are only designed to be worn for one day, and then a new mask put into place. So yes, there is a big burden on having to keep the mask supply up. I appreciate that, but it is a very effective way of ensuring that people are kept safe. If you are wearing a cloth mask, it does need to be washed very regularly, and it should have a filter system inside as well. All of our girls and all of our staff from Year 7 to Year 12 are required to wear masks. That is in the public health order. And our junior school girls are encouraged to wear masks where they're able to. If you are outside, I would still encourage in the first 2 weeks as we're returning back to school, keep your mask on unless you are eating and drinking. And if you have your mask off, then the importance of just keeping a bit of distance between you and others. It's not being unfriendly, it's actually caring for others. And that's what we're referring to as social distancing. There is no rule anymore about how many people to 2 square metres we can have within a school context, but to be safe, keeping some distance between is really helpful. Yes, we are administering the rapid antigen home tests. Everyone has received their supply, and thank you for your assistance, girls and families, in collecting those from the reception areas. No one particularly enjoys doing it, but it can be a really effective way of picking up any possible contacts before those people are circulating in our wider school community. And for those girls that are able to be vaccinated, there is an encouragement from New South Wales Health to be vaccinated, fully vaccinated as well. And of course, as you know, that's actually a requirement for all of our staff also. We are hoping to resume our excursions and events and activities pretty much as normal this term, but there will be some restrictions in place. Our Borders Weekend is going ahead this weekend with COVID safe planning. Our Year 7 Friendship Camp, likewise, again with COVID safe planning. Our Swimming Carnival, again with COVID safe planning. So we really are wanting to get back to business as usual, but keeping people safe in the first instance for that 2 weeks in particular. And then we'll send out more information and update you girls at Assembly about any changes to those restrictions. Can I just congratulate the cast of Wicked for your hard efforts and participation in the Wicked Camp last weekend. It was amazing to see some snippets of just how far you came coming together with much uncertainty about whether we would even be able to have Wicked Camp go ahead. Can I encourage families as well that you might like to purchase your tickets sooner rather than later, because our ticket sales, we're pleased to see, are really strong at this point, and we wouldn't want anyone to miss out. Girls, it is great to be able to celebrate the achievements and recognitions within our community, whether it's at Assembly or chapel in the junior school, through the Lions Roar, through our social media accounts and our Edumate broadcasts, but we don't always know of some of the wonderful things that you do outside of school. So if there are wonderful accomplishments outside of school, please make sure you let your pastoral care teacher or Mr. Clendening or Mrs. Wake know so that we can celebrate these achievements within our community. And parents, you are welcome to send that information directly to our Media Communications Manager, Ms. Samantha Crick, also. For those who are new to PLC Armidale, we are a school in its 135th year this year of educating girls in regional New South Wales. In a school with such a long history, there are traditions that we honour from time to time. We also enjoy creating new traditions as well. Well, girls, the year was 1909. The school was sold. The purchaser, Miss Althea Tendall. The school was known then as the Armidale Girls' High School. Before that, it had been the New England Ladies' College, not the New England Girls' School, which started after us. Miss Tendall purchased the school, but she didn't actually purchase any buildings. She purchased the name, she purchased the business, she had one staff member, and the Armidale Girls' High School in 1909 had 13 students in the entire school. With the girls lined up to welcome their new owner and new headmistress, Miss Tendall, and it's recorded in our school history that the girls stood to attention with school bags in hand, their skirts reaching almost to the ankles. They were navy then. They had stiffly starched blouses and black butterfly bows pinned high upon the head of each girl. As I mentioned, Miss Tendall purchased a business, not buildings. She had to lease them, and this was the first building that Miss Tendall housed the school that she had purchased in. It's on the corner of Dangar and Brown Street, and it's still there today. It was a residence known as Tulloch. And in this particular place, Miss Tendall set about to grow her school in a very competitive environment. For in 1909, there were 3 other all-girls schools in Armidale. There was Armidale Girls High School, Neggs, Montrose, and the Ursuline Convent School. The school crest at the time depicted an open book, a rising sun, and the motto Lux per Studia, or light through study. In 1913, Miss Tendall introduced a new crest. She retained the open book. She replaced the rising sun and the motto with 3 stars and ad astra, and soon this crest was added to the uniform, which at the same time changed to be a bottle green skirt and a white blouse and a white Panama hat with the crest embroidered on a bottle green band, and that hat, which you are wearing a version of that now, has been in place as a PLC Armidale tradition for over 100 years. And this hat out of our archive collection has the original crest embroidered on the hat band. Well, why am I sharing this with you? It is helpful to always, and especially in anniversary years, to consider where have we come from to inform where are we going. But I'm sharing this with you this morning not just to give you a history lesson about uniform and nor the various changes to our crest, because you'll see on the slide our current crest, which reflects the Presbyterian Scottish heritage introduced with the addition of the St Andrew's Cross and the rampant lion. But I want to introduce you to a bit of a working theme that I'm going to refer to throughout the year. I'm going to consider that, yes, ad astra, the literal interpretation of ad astra, is to the stars. But I'm also going to ask us to consider that in 2022, what does it mean to strive to the stars? Where's the inspiration for that? I wonder if for Miss Tendall, because she actually came to Armidale from Melbourne, I wonder if, like many of you, on a clear night sky, look at the skies in Armidale and are taken aback by how expansive they are and how magnificent the display of the stars and the constellations and the galaxies are. I wonder if that was an inspiration. We don't know. It's not actually recorded. I'm not asking girls that we literally set about on aeronautical engineering careers, though some of you might choose to do that, but I'm actually asking you this year to take a risk, to set a goal, to strive and achieve, for I think that is what To the Stars is referring to. And so in 2022, what does that look like? I am encouraging you to take the lead individually. In Term 4 last year, at this very commencement service, we inducted our Year 12 student leadership team, and they represented their guilds and the college well throughout Term 4, especially in guild drama under very difficult circumstances. Today we are inducting more student leaders. We are inducting our peer support leaders who play such an important role in settling and welcoming our Year 7 girls into the college and being there as a supportive older sister type friend to those younger girls. We're also going to be investing our leaders of our co-curricular programs, girls that attain or strive in individual areas of interest. And in a few weeks' time, we will gather again as a whole school and we will invest our junior school leadership team and we will invest our student representative council. And that is an encouragement to all of you. There is an opportunity to take the lead of putting your name forward to be part of our Student Representative Council. You see, girls, our all-girls context provides a wonderful opportunity for you to take risks in taking the lead, whether it's in a position or actually whether it's through the influence that you have in the decisions that you make and the work that you do. So my challenge to you is, in what areas will you seek to take the lead in 2022? And how will you take the lead? When I shared this theme with the staff earlier, I encouraged us to consider that taking the lead is actually about leading with your strengths. And part of what we do in our pastoral care program is to actually consider what are those strengths? How can we grow in confidence in those things that we have much to give and contribute in? To lead from a firm foundation. It's not by accident that there is a book in the centre of our crest. The book reflecting the Bible, the source of truth and knowledge, but the book also representing wisdom and wisdom gained through study. I'm encouraging you all to lead with purpose. Why do you choose to do what you do? Our senior girls, why have you chosen the subjects that you've chosen? Our girls that have taken up positions of leadership, why did you put your name forward? Our girls that have chosen to come to PLC Armidale, why did you make that choice? All of those things create a purpose to motivate, especially when things get difficult and challenging. Lead with a strong sense of self and lead with our values, humility, integrity, respect and self-discipline. If they characterise the way you conduct yourself as a student, and I challenged us as a staff, if those values characterise us as a community, it strengthens our fabric, it strengthens who we are and how we serve in our wider community. But girls, also lead with others. Don't try and do it entirely on your own. We have leadership teams right through from our executive leadership team all the way through in our junior school, our Student Representative Council leadership team with little girls from kindergarten all the way up to Year 6. We don't seek to be solo leaders, but to lead well in teams and lead collectively then, not just as a collection of individuals. And that's actually much harder to do than it is to say. So in 2022, as we return to more of a business as usual approach, I am encouraging you to identify and find your purpose, to lead in community, and that is our PLC advantage. The Bible, the truth of God's word depicted in our crest, speaks to every situation and circumstances of life, including young people taking the lead. This verse was written by an older man to a much younger man, Timothy, who was about to take the lead amongst a group of believers. And the verse says this: "Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example for the believers in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity. The principle is sound. The context there was for leading a group of believers in a church, but the principle of leading by example in speech, conduct, love, faith, and purity is a sound one for us to commence 2022 with. Would you join with me as I pray, and then we will move to inducting our student leaders. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the privilege of education. We thank you for the investment our families have made and the commitment to see that their daughters receive an education with purpose and an education that equips for all of life and for the whole of life. We thank you that we lead and we serve in community, not in isolation, and thank you for the strengthening that that collective approach brings. As we commence our 2022 school year, I pray that we would each seek ways in which we may take the lead, whether it is in taking a risk, establishing a new friendship, helping someone that needs that help, taking on a position of responsibility, seeing an area that's not being done that you could add value to. I pray that you would help from the youngest of us to the oldest, that we would each seek to take the lead at PLC Armidale. And now, as we invest our peer support leaders and then our co-curricular leaders and present all of Year 12 with their badges, I pray that these girls would lead in their positions and from their positions well. It isn't about the badge, it is about the service and the influence that they may have. Thank you for the opportunity of gathering this morning. Continue to keep our community safe. Please return to full health those we know who are suffering from COVID, and may we be able to take the lead in business as usual at PLC Armidale this year. Amen. We're going to first of all present our Year 12 students with their badges. This has become one of our more recent traditions of, at the commencement service in Term 1 and then again at valedictory, having all of Year 12 process in together, and each girl will be called by name to come and receive their Year 12 badge, which is a mark of the final stage of your official schooling at PLC Armidale. And I'm going to invite our Head of Senior School, Mr Mitchell Clendenning, to come and assist with that process. Thank you, Mr Clendenning.
Good morning. Mrs Taylor, it gives me great pleasure to ask our Year 12 students to the stage to receive their Year 12 badge. Elise de Crepney. Karen Chan.
Sorry.
Amber Coleman. Pip Constable. Emma De Paris. Hannah Ditchfield. Sunny Dong. Bethany Arkoff. Madeline George. Claudia Hamlin. Maya Hess. Ava Hippersley. Azaria Jones. Gigi Kasimsuk. Ellen Kirk, in absentia. Sophie Liu. Kate Mabbott. Heidi Martin. Naomi Martin. Maddie McCook. Pollyanna McIntyre. Destiny Mills. Izzy Petersey. Alex Reid, in absentia. Georgina Swales, Emma Thompson, Amelia Wake, Annika Waters, Sarah Waters, Eleanor Wise, Lucy Wright, Jessie Younghusband. Please congratulate Year 12.
And Year 12, we will gather together for a photograph outside where you may remove your masks, but because you're such a large year group, I didn't ask you to do that here. But for our peer support leaders, when we have a photograph taken here, you are able to remove your masks for the photograph. So we come now to inducting our peer support leaders, and I would like to commend and congratulate each one of you girls for the applications that you put forward. And for those across the cohort, it was a very high standard of applicant for our peer support positions this year. Girls, you each have a pledge there, and I'm going to ask you in a moment to come forward and stand in front of our school community. If you look straight ahead at the camera, the rest of the school will be able to see you as we say the pledge together for our peer support leaders. So if our peer support leaders would like to stand, please. And Chio, would you like to lead them onto the stage? Thank you. Girls, would you like to read to the school community what it is that you are pledging to do? As
a leader, I will assist the 7 students from Armidale with college, help them with any problems that may arise, display the leadership by good example that will help build the students' self-esteem and ensure the continuation of the program in future years. Be available to help my group during college hours with any emergency. Be their confidant whilst respecting their privacy. Maintain a comfortable environment which engenders trust and friendliness. Involve all group members on an equal basis. Arrive at group meetings on time with adequate preparation to make the session worthwhile. Be supportive, understanding, patient and kind. Obey college rules and do my best to uphold the good name of the college. Cooperate with my co-leaders and respect their opinions.
Well done, and not easy to do in unison wearing masks. So girls, do you accept the position of peer support leader for 2022, and will you abide by the commitments on this pledge?
I do so.
Well done. I will now present you each with your badge, and then you are asked to sign the pledge on the table behind us and then make your way back to the position for a photograph. We look forward to the contribution of our peer support leaders, and we also look forward to the contribution of our captains of our co-curricular program. And we are now going to invest a number of the captains of the co-curricular program with their badges, and I will again ask Mr. Clendining to come and assist with this process. Thank you, Mr. Clendining.
Our 2022 Sports and Creative Arts captains. Basketball, Ella Moody. Equestrian, Lucy Wright. Football, Alex Reid. Hockey and indoor hockey, Pip Constable. Netball, Madeline George. Rugby and touch football, Georgina Swales. Swimming, Heidi Martin. Tennis, Lauren Williams. Cattle team, Liberty Cook. Our creative arts captains. Drama, Azaria Jones. Music, Chio Brown. Dance, Fifi Imberger. Art, Harriet Gilpin.
Girls, you may remove your mask for a photo. That brings us to the end of our service, our commencement service for 2022. Thank you again for those parents that have been here in person and those that have joined us via the live stream. Thank you, girls, for, again, your engagement with us this year and for the year ahead as we take the lead. And I have just realised there's one thing I have omitted. We actually do have the presentation of an outright gold pocket to India Smith. India is with us in the assembly. India, would you like to come to the front? We will have, I trust we have your gold pocket here, but India achieved an outstanding acknowledgement in being selected for involvement in a talented musicians program, and we would like to present India with her outright gold pocket. Would you join with me in congratulating India, please? Girls, could I ask you now to be upstanding, and prefects and the executive will process out. Thank you.